The ugly truth about coaching that nobody talks about, but I love to talk about, is the fact that so many of these coaches are not making money, right? They're taking a lot of their personal savings, they're putting their expenses on credit cards, what have you. And the real hustlers, the real ones that were lucky to figure out how to bring in those sales are, probably breaking even, or, in a couple of years, they could be making a lot of money. But when you look at the online coaches now that dominate the space, they've been in there for like a decade at least.
Yeah.
So they're dominating the space, and the new ones, they're coming in and out very quickly.
All right, so we have a special guest today because not only are you an author, Melissa Houston, but you're also my friend. And Melissa is a contributor at Forbes and also wrote a fantastic book called Cash Confident, which is, I think, what I love about it, it is very simple to understand and grasp. And it basically gives people a blueprint for how to manage your money within your business, basically, and be more confident about cash, right?
Yes, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what I aimed for. There's so many accountants who write books, but they can only be understood by other accountants.
Right.
And and it's like, that's not very helpful for the average entrepreneur, because you're not an accountant,
right?
Nor do you want to be, right?
Well, yeah. And also, it's like, this is what I love about it also, is that like it can save people who are entrepreneurs so much money by learning very basic things that they can be doing and looking out for.
Yes.
And so why did you name it Cash Confident? What is it to be cash confident?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because my whole premise of She Means Profit is I really want to empower entrepreneurs and business owners with business financial literacy. And once you have those skills, you feel like so confident and so unstoppable. So, to the point of cash confident, it's getting you confident with the numbers in your business, because like you said, there's so much money, there's so much profit to be made when you look at your numbers and you tighten things up in your business, right? People think, I don't want to look at my numbers, they scare me, whatever. But there's so much value in knowing what's going on in your business and knowing your numbers.
It's so true. In fact, actually, what's so interesting, so many big brands, people look from the outside. Perception is not always reality, right? Like, I know a lot of big brands out there. They look like they're worth billions of dollars. It has the perception of so much success. And the truth is, they are drowning in debt. They are actually going to be on the brink of bankruptcy because they're not managing their numbers properly. They're overspending. They don't know what's really going on. Even within the company, they don't know what's going on. And, you talk very much about, what is it like about why businesses fail. What is the number one reason? I think it's you said 82% of businesses fail. What is that number one reason for it?
The number one reason is cash flow. Running out of cash, because people mistake profit from cash flow, and they're two very different things. And when you run out of cash, you're basically out of resources and you're forced to shut down at that point. It's too late.
Yeah, totally true. Profit and cash flow are so different, and that's what happens. People mistake one for the other. They think it's synonymous with each other. You can have a huge profit year. A lot of people I know, like on my podcast or a lot of people, like my friends, who had huge businesses, but they weren't managing their cash flow and they ran out of money, and next thing you know, it was goodbye. It was bankruptcy.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like if you're not doing a point of sale business, which is, tap the card and you get the money right away. Mm-hmm. So if you're invoicing and you're waiting for, big payments to come through and stuff, that's especially important for managing your cash flow, because there's a lot of timing differences. So your profit statement may say, let's just say you've got $1 million of profit, but if $900,000 of that profit is tied up, you're still waiting for the cash, and you run out, that's a problem. So you have to be very careful managing your cash, even though you're high profit.
Totally. So then, can you give us a few tips of how we can be much more cognizant of our cash flow that is simple for people who are not financially astute or number astute like me, or a lot of people, to be honest, because you could have a great idea and just this can be that linchpin that basically drowns you. So
yeah, exactly. And for smaller businesses, it tends to be a little bit more difficult for them to understand how to manage their cash. large corporations, they've got their cash management systems, or they should, nailed down. So when you're an entrepreneur or small business owner, medium size, what have you, it's important to be proactive with your cash. So what you're going to do is you're going to forecast at least 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. So you're looking into the future. You're looking at where your bank balance is now, but you're also forecasting what you expect to come in and out for the next 6 to 8 weeks, so that you can identify if there's any timing issues and you've got like a shortage in cash. So when you've got that shortage in cash, it's also important to have reserves ready to use that that cash, bucket, whatever you want to call
bundle
it,
or whatever.
Yeah, so it could be like a line of credit, it could be cash that you've saved up in your business, like whatever, but you need to be prepared because it's the cycle of business. You're always going to have, low cash months. It happens frequently. Business is a constant challenge, ever changing, especially during hard economic times.
Right.
So ensuring that you've got the cash and you've got the resources to cover it when you're short, it allows you to sleep well at night.
I agree. So what you put together this like 5-step framework, right? To be cash confident. Do you want to break it down for people?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the 5 steps, they all complement each other, right? So the first step is your money mindset. And the reason why I put that number 1 is because I find with a lot of small business owners and medium sized, like just owner-managed businesses, that there's something holding them back into making more money, right? We all have money stories. We all have money mindset issues. And a lot of, especially women, are afraid to start making profit because they're afraid of what people are going to think or how their life will change or whatever. So you don't want to have a money mindset that's going to hold you back from being the best and most profitable business that you can be. And then the second step is to know your financial statements, because if you're not reading your financial statements every month, like you're doing your business a disservice. And then the third step is to ensure that you've got a business financial plan created. So what that is it's looking at where your business is currently, and then you're forecasting the next 12 months. And if you've got goals, like if you want to increase the size of your business, increase revenues, what have you, you can map these out each and every month so that you can achieve your goals, right? And it allows you to grow your business in a managed way. So then you can see, when you put it on paper and you plan it out, you can see at that point when you can afford to bring in extra team members, or if you can up your advertising budget, or what have you, whatever's going on in your business. And then the fourth step is, okay, it's great that you made that plan, but you need to be sure that you monitor what's going on each and every month to make sure that you're staying on track for that plan. And when you look at your plan, like your results every month, you're also going to look at your profit, and you're going to estimate how much taxes you need to put aside, right? Because so many entrepreneurs are forgetting that part. It's great to make profit, but if you're not planning for your taxes, then you're going to get a big surprise, right? So
I'm so glad that you said that. That is so true, right? Because people do not. I mean, I'm a victim of that myself, right? Because I forget that sometimes, like, oh, I made this money, and I get really resentful at the end of the year when I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize like all that money that I did make, and actually, it's not actually my money. I have to then pay such a big piece. So then what people do is they overspend with not knowing this.
Exactly. And then that turns into the fifth step, which is the cash management side, right?
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden you're short on cash because you've got this bill to pay to the IRS and you don't have any money to pay. So what I always recommend is having 2 accounts for your business. One for your operating expenses, your everyday in and out stuff, and then that special account for your taxes. So once you calculate how much you should be putting aside, you put it into your tax bank account, and it's like gone and paid. So you don't have to worry about it. So when you do get your tax bill, you've got that reserve ready to go and pay. And if you're the type of person, or if there's a listener that's the type of person, because I hear this often, they get resentful because they have to pay taxes, right? And of course, nobody loves paying taxes.
Yeah, who does?
But I mean, a great way you can reframe it is thinking, this is actually a privilege because I'm making money in my business. If you're not paying taxes,
You're not making money.
profitable.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so funny. My husband always says that to me because I get so mad, and he's like, "Listen, it's better than the alternative, right? Like if you wouldn't be paying anything if you weren't making anything, right?" But you know, a lot of times, like I feel like we get in our own way, and I don't like we can have all the opportunity. This is again, I'm talking from my own experiences. You know, you may know how to make money, but you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you're not managing it well and making it work for you. And I've learned that so many times the hard way. And you know, how do we even I guess my question always comes down to actionable things. Like you gave us the five, like a brief summary of the 5-step framework, but if someone is just overwhelmed with the idea of all those things, right? Like how do we kind of get over our own anxiety, and do we find somebody to help us with it? Like I feel like a lot of times I think you talk about it, this idea of imposter syndrome when it comes to the money, right? Like you don't even understand, like you don't believe that this is something that you can even, like this is not you. What do we do about it?
Yeah, well, that's such a great question. And that, first of all, is why money mindset is number one. Because when you're feeling overwhelmed, that's your money mindset that's speaking, right? And it's saying, oh my God, I don't know what to do. How am I going to handle this?
Right.
But the thing is, it's broken down into the following 4 steps, right? It's step by step.
Yeah.
And if you need help, if you feel overwhelmed with that, I personally have courses out there, I have programs, and I have coaching. And then there's other business financial coaches out there that you can seek help from and assistance to guide you through those steps to ensure that you can, get a handle on your finances and get that financial confidence. But the thing is, people think when they come to get coaching from you, they're like, you're telling me it's going to be an 8-week program, and I'm telling you it's probably going to be at least 3 or 4 months. And I hear that often, right? People think it's so overwhelming. They're a slow learner. They're not going to get it.
Yeah.
And I have yet to have a client who's taken more than 8 weeks.
Really?
Really.
So a lot of times, again, we have so much self-doubt around it, or we don't give ourselves enough credit. And that's what's, the truth of the matter is, again, this is like life, right? We basically steer away from anything we don't think we're good at, and we don't even give ourselves a chance to even see what our potential is. And you know what I mean? And so I feel like, is that why you wrote this I feel like this is a very women-friendly, it's more for women, right, than it is for men.
Yeah, I mean, men can certainly read it and get tons of value out of it, but I really wanted to focus on women because that's what I'm hearing out there with a lot of women, is that there's so many additional challenges that we have to face, and additional, like even mindset issues. Women in particular, I hear often when I ask them, how much money do you want to make in your business? They're like, well, this is my most common response. I just want to make as much as I need to survive. And I'm like, why?
Is that really the number one thing that you hear from women?
That is the number one thing that women tell me. And I challenge it every time, because I'm like, you were not put here on this earth to build a business just to scrape by.
Yeah.
Why is that acceptable to you? And then it gets a little deeper. Well, I feel like if I get wealthy, people will judge me. They won't like me. They'll think I'm greedy. All sorts of stuff. There's so many stories tied up with money, right?
There's so many. But also, we're
Canadian.
By the way, I mean, if you haven't heard it, guys, she's Canadian, like me, out. Now, is it mostly Canadian women saying this, or is it women across the board?
No, I work in Canada and the U.S. Actually, most of my clients are from the U.S.
I'm teasing you because we always, women in general, though, but I mean, women, Canadians.
But we are like that as Canadians.
Yeah, as Canadians.
We're very conservative.
We feel bad, guilty, whatever, but I do feel like there is this thing with women, like feeling guilty, and that they're not worthy, or they should just be more of a supporter role. But I think that it's what's interesting. A lot of research and data now talks about how women are way more even. They're going to college more than men. They're more educated than men. They're actually more the breadwinners than men now. A lot of times, it's actually insane how the tables have turned. We're living in a society that it's not how it used to be. But yet, you're still saying of the masses, that's what you hear more than ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have that big, I don't know if you've heard of the wealth transfer that's coming up
No,
in
tell me.
the next decade. Yeah, so right now with the boomer era and, men are, the majority of boomers are wealthy men who
Right.
have wealth that they need to pass down. And since women outlive the husbands and, all that's, I can't explain all the economics of it, but basically as the boomers, die off, the money is going to be transferred into women's hands. So the majority of this $1 trillion amount of wealth that's floating around out there will be owned by women,
Wow.
which is great.
Yeah, and that's why I guess it's even more important for women to understand the inner
It's
workings
so important. Yeah.
of money.
Yeah. And I do also see a lot of women who, especially business owners, who leave all the finance and the financial planning to their husbands or their spouses. And I'm like, that's not a good partnership. Partnerships are meeting each other halfway, both being involved. First of all, it's unfair to the spouse that they've got the entire burden of carrying that. And secondly, it's unfair to the woman who's handing over her power.
Yeah. Well, I feel with that though, like in any partnership, right? Like I don't know, you kind of do what you're good at, and someone else takes the stuff that you're not great at, and then like it can balance itself out, really. But I do know what you mean because
Well,
go ahead.
sorry, what I was going to say is, like your finances or your financial health.
Yeah.
So you need to know what's going on with
You
your
do.
financial health, right?
Yeah.
So putting it in
agree.
charge of somebody else, yeah.
That's when you
it's
get
just not,
that's when you get in trouble. I think that's when you start getting in trouble. I do believe that though. And I do believe that a lot of women don't feel confident in it, and so therefore they just pass it on to somebody, like you said, their husband or whoever, and then they don't know what the hell's going on. And it actually would behoove them to to learn basics and understand and to know this, because that's how a lot of people get in trouble, right? Like later on in life, and then you feel indebted to someone else based on the fact that you don't think you can, you don't know about money, you can't support yourself, you don't know this, you don't know that. There's so many other things that happen with it. How about in terms of like understanding the strengths and weaknesses of a business? How do we kind of diagnose those?
That is a really good question. And the best way to understand what's going on in your business is looking at your profit and loss statement. That statement is the number one most used statement in a business. And knowing, first of all, how many sales you're bringing in each month and what your expenses are and what your net profit margin is imperative to knowing what's going on in your business. That's where you're going to see the results, right? Seeing like, okay, if my sales were down, I'm going to see that when I look at my income statement or profit and loss, however you call it, they're interchangeable. And if you see that you're overspending on your expenses, and that's a very general way of looking at it. You can get more finite information when you start digging into your finances, right? Like most of us have QuickBooks or whatever, and you can drill down on your reports when you're using accounting software. It makes it so much easier. So then when you drill down on the accounts, like your sales, well, where did my sales lag? Was it in the products that I'm selling? Is it the services that I'm selling? Like you have that information at the tip of your fingers. You just have to go and find it. It's really easy once you understand, and you can create, past month compared to this month, or last year, same month compared to this month, quarter, yearly, whatever. When you know what you're looking for, which really doesn't take long to learn, then you know what's going on in your business and what's working well and what isn't working well.
So, you said something earlier that I didn't want to interrupt you, but you mentioned something about like direct sales or different types of businesses. In your experience, because you work with lots of different entrepreneurs who are doing lots of different things, have you noticed what businesses are more profitable and cash flow positive than other ones? That if someone's listening to this and they want to start a business, they have an entrepreneurial spirit, and they just don't know where to start, where would you say would be a great place for that? Right.
Service-based businesses are the most profitable, right? So if you are offering a service, especially from home, where you've got extremely low overhead, then that is profitable. Like you could also think of a dentist or a doctor as service-based, but they have the office, they have the physical equipment,
brick and mortar.
There's a lot of money that goes into it. Yeah, exactly. So if you are online, working from home, service-based business, that is really profitable. Now, there's other businesses that can be extremely profitable as well. It doesn't have to be service-based. So it really depends on your industry. So if you're starting a restaurant or a bakery, those are the least profitable industries. They usually make about 8 to 10, maybe 12% net profit margin, which is really low. And then the service-based business that I'm talking about can make about 60% profit margin. And just to break it down for people who are listening, they're like, these net profit margins, what do they mean? So if you're bringing in $100,000 and your profit margin is 60%, you're going to have $60,000 of profit. Whereas if you're a restaurant owner, you would have like $8,000 to $12,000 worth of profit from that $100,000 of revenue you're bringing in. So it's a big difference, right?
It's true.
So being mindful of the industry that you're getting into and what your expectations are is really smart.
So that's why most restaurants fail, right? And that's why most of these business,
very difficult.
And anything in the food industry is very difficult. Then why are people going? And let's say you're like a chef and that's your passion. Who would open up a restaurant in these days because of that reason alone?
Exactly.
No, I'm asking you seriously, who would open up a restaurant like that? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't work with restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, it's really amazing to me. Like, there's no money in it. None.
There's no money. Yeah, it's really hard. You have to bring in a lot of revenue to make profit. And there's so much, I always recommend anybody who has a restaurant that comes to me for help, I always recommend them to a special restaurant CFO because there's so much going on in a restaurant. You've got produce and, things that go bad. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I'm talking about?
Rancid, spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You have to understand how to make sure you're not ordering enough food, more food, less food.
Exactly,
it's like a lot of balancing of those things.
Yeah. So you really need somebody specialized to help you in that industry. Yeah.
Okay. And so other than that, what service industry have you seen people make it the most profitable? Is there a specific area, or does it really matter?
The coaching industry is very profitable when you can get the sales. But only when you can get the sales. And the thing is, it's a good question too, because there's a lot of misinformation in the coaching industry as well, right? So if you're planning your money really well, you can make a lot of money in profit. But a lot of times you're going to see these online course creators and stuff, they're like, I had a launch and it was $1 million. And, people think that that's what they're actually bringing home is that $1 million of sales. But when you look at the expenses that go behind these really big launches, they're lucky if they're breaking even. You have to be very financially savvy to make money off these launches because so much goes into it.
Let's talk about this for a second, because I talk about the fact that everybody now and their dog is a coach online, right? That's the new trendy thing.
I didn't want to bring that industry up.
I know. Well, no, I'm glad you did, because I think that is because our whole world now is about social media, right? We buy on social media, we look at social media, and so people are now monetizing on social media. And what better? There's no barrier to entry for being a coach anymore.
That's right.
Any Yahoo can say that they're a self-help guru, an entrepreneur. Most of these entrepreneurs who are on social media have never even built a business or done a business. Their only entrepreneur, their only entrepreneurial thing that they've done is sell you a course that they're making money from. That's
them. Probably learned from another coach.
Right. And it's basically, exactly. It's copycat.
Yeah.
How are these randos who have no business acumen before this, besides being like a hustler, how are they making their money as a coach? Are they just doing digital marketing constantly? And then how much are they spending of digital marketing to even bring in that amount?
Such a good question. And the thing is, when you're a coach, if you're to start a coaching business these days, you're competing with so much noise online.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have something that's really going to stand out from your competitors. And how do you do that? Chances are you're going to have to pay a lot of people to help you, right? So you got to get those sales in the door really quick. And the ugly truth about coaching that nobody talks about, but I love to talk about, is the fact that so many of these coaches are not making money. right? They're taking a lot of their personal savings, they're putting their expenses on credit cards, what have you. And the real hustlers, the real ones that were lucky to figure out how to bring in those sales are, probably breaking even, or, in a couple of years, they could be making a lot of money. But when you look at the online coaches now that dominate the space, they've been in there for like a decade at least.
Yeah.
So they're dominating the space, and the new ones, they're coming in and out very quickly.
So even, I mean, it's interesting because, you go on that stuff and you think, oh my God, everybody is a millionaire. Everyone's making so much money.
Such a lie.
Right. Right. And then like you take yourself down this bad rabbit hole of like, oh my God, why am I not making this money? Why am I not doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And, you're basically like you're confirming what I feel like I already know, which is the truth is they're actually not making money. They're spending money. And the illusion is that they're making money, because if they don't have that illusion of making money, no one would actually use them as a coach, because then they're not a successful entrepreneur, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's just a racket that keeps on going and going and going.
Yeah. And a lot of them feed off each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so you do the content creation and I do the Facebook ads, and, they're all just feeding off each other too.
It's crazy. How does anyone get a leg up in this coaching world then? Like, do you see, just because you think it's just attrition, people that's been there a long time?
I personally think so. I prefer working with traditional business owners. So I work with product-based businesses. I work with service-based who are brick and mortar, just traditional business owners. I stay away from the coaching industry because it is feast or famine.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What do you think, when does a company need to hire a CFO?
When you are starting a business and you don't know what you're doing, that's a really good time.
Yeah.
Even though you can't afford it, but it is the best investment that you can make, because you'll be sure that you are going to start your business, understand what your targets are, grow your business, and grow your business profitably. You don't have to start off with a CFO right away. You can start off with a business financial coach who takes smaller clients and helps them grow their business to sustainable levels, and then transfer it over when you need a fractional CFO. And then as your business grows even more, you'll eventually have a full-time CFO in there.
Yeah.
But it just depends on the stage that you're at and the type of industry that you're in and how much money you're bringing in.
Yeah, the fractional CFO is a great idea. It's a great option. So you're not spending a full,
it's a great option,
right? Like a salary.
Business.
Yeah. I see a lot of friends doing that too. In fact, I might be one of the friends who start doing a fractional CFO pretty soon. But that's besides the point.
You'll have to tell me about that later.
I know. Well, no, in general, like I'm so over. This is why I love this topic and what we're talking about, this podcast topic, because anybody who is doing their own thing in a personal brand, entrepreneur, I feel like there's so much confusion. People feel very overwhelmed. They don't know what they don't know, and it's confusing. And they do mistake cash flow with profit, and understanding that cash flow, if you don't have it, will destroy your company eventually if you don't manage it well. So, and I do believe the money mindset piece is so important, because we all have such crazy hang-ups over money that also are very detrimental.
That's right. It's so true. And then when you work with a fractional CFO, they help you bring organization to your business and make it leaner and more efficient. It's not just looking at the numbers. It's not just about the 5-step framework. The 5-step framework is the core. But there's a lot of things that CFOs do for a business. And I remember hearing, well, you're not generating profit for a business, so why would anybody need a CFO? It's like, we're helping you generate that profit by giving you your goals they're saying you're not generating revenue. And we're helping you generate that revenue by giving you the goals that you need to meet every month and tightening up your expenses so that you have more profit. And the profit is what you get to keep after taxes. So you want to line your pockets more, right?
Yeah.
So investing in that fractional CFO, for some people, they're thinking, oh, that's just a waste of money. But the thing is, it gives you a return on that investment. You would make so much more money if you tighten up your controls and your money-making system.
Totally agree.
If you invested in that, right?
Totally agree. I think that a lot of times people are short-sighted you know, because you don't see that. You're like, well, I want
It's a money hang up.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't want to spend it.
You don't want to spend it, but you'll spend it on frivolous things like more marketing or PR, which will just kind of drain you more.
Yeah.
You know, but
And the thing is, if you don't know your money leaks and you don't know what's draining your business, you'll never fix it.
exactly.
Yeah, but the CFO helps you figure out what's going on so that you can fix it and bring in that money and save it.
Totally agree. So if people want to know more about this cash confidence, where do they go? Can you tell them?
My website. Yeah, melissahoustonCPA.com is my main website, and there's my book on there that you can purchase. But you can purchase that book at Barnes and Nobles, on Amazon, in Canada at Chapters or Indigo and Target and whatever. And
I love that you gave the Canadian stuff. That's amazing. I love it. Is Chapter still around?
They're named Chapters, but technically it's Indigo.
Is Indigo still around?
Yeah. So when you go online, Indigo's there. It's confusing, right? Because I could go down the street and there's a Chapters, and then across town there's an Indigo, but they're the same company.
I never understood that. And listen, I love that you came on because you're, again, not why I love Canadians, not because I am one, but because you're a legit person giving you legit information. You're not some Yahoo who's just kind of like spewing out something because they took an online course. You're a real professional who sees it all. Like I said, you're doing Forbes still. What else are you doing besides Forbes?
Yeah, I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of coaching and have my programs, do my podcast, She Means Profit. And I'm a CPA who's got over 20 years of experience helping business owners.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to take that information because I know it's so valuable. I've been, the things I've seen over 20 years, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to help small business owners so they understand, oh, wait a minute, this is a great way to understand my numbers and I can grow my business profitably, make more money. That's the goal, right?
Totally. I agree. Melissa, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Jen.
Absolutely. And we'll talk later. So guys, go get a copy of Cash Confident and you won't be disappointed, I promise. Bye.
Thank you.